There's something so satisfying from going from a moment like this, basically just acting like you're full of fear and don't want to do it, to then ending the episode with this man just charging in and taking something that easily could have killed multiple people and turn him into just the most badass lightning rod possible. And that's kind of what I'm excited about with this battle, is that you know it's gonna hit the fan, you know shit's gonna get bloody and people are gonna get beaten. But as it stands, like, there's potential for a lot of characters who normally don't steal the spotlight to steal it in pretty badass ways because they fit the mission so perfectly. And to see an episode like this, which could probably be best summed down to as the importance of never skipping leg day, because Mirko is just a badass. We see so many shows, we see so many anime where you have fighting in the show. But how often do we see people who are just so incredibly skilled that their primary attack is through kicking? It's not often, right? It's usually people throwing punches, or they have a weapon and they're swinging it, or something to that nature, right? Because everyone and their mother, even if they're not very good at it, can swing a punch and say, oh, you know what, if I trained hard enough, I'm sure I could maybe knock someone out. But when it comes to being able to kick someone in the middle of a fight, I mean, anyone who actually tries to lift their leg and do like a spinning kick and just imagining someone coming charging at you, you're gonna fall on your ass. Like, it is an incredibly difficult thing to master, and that's why I have a really high level of respect for any, like, real-life professional fighters who are, like, incredibly skilled with kicking. Like, mixed martial arts, you know, the fact that someone can actually knock someone who's about to land a nice sucker punch to your face and a nice kick to the face that just completely shifts the fight. It's just interesting to see a show like My Hero, which can take the idea of, like, what if someone had the powers of a rabbit? Like, just add in the maneuverability, the way just the body could operate, but apply that to a human who never skips leg day, and to see from Beyblade spin attacks to just more common kicking techniques, it's hard not to get a kick, no pun intended there, out of what she was doing. And I love the kind of attitude of kick first, ask questions later, because in this situation, right, this is the most, I mean, arguably the most important mission that any of them have probably ever been in during their time as a hero, right? Because if they win, shit's gonna be safe. If they lose, Hero Society as we know it could probably cease to exist. It just feels like the stakes are that high. So there's no real room for making sure, are you the real one, are you the fake one? Well, yes, I am the real one. Well, I don't need to take your word for it. I just need to beat you bloody, and if you dissolve into a mushy substance, well, you're a fake, and if you bleed, obviously you're the real one, sort of a thing. And I think that's what makes it great, because these headstrong characters who, I think she's ranked number 5 out of all the heroes or something like that, there's a reason why she got to that level. It's not just like she's an airhead and just a musclehead, right, who only understands fighting. Like, you can tell she has a very headstrong personality. Her arm gets twisted and just, I mean, there's some disturbing ass shit that happens. And yeah, she's got a feisty look. She's like, bitch, please, this just gets me more fired up. But at the end of the day, she doesn't feel like a moron. She doesn't feel like someone who can't read the situation. It's just, the bigger the challenge, the bigger the reward for dealing with it, sort of a thing. And yes, I do think shit's gonna get far worse before it gets better, but it's hard not to get at a kick at how they stylized it, both with the still shots. There was a large amount of shots where just they would freeze frame and they'd slowly pull away, and you just look at the carnage happening from the number of powerful beasts that characters would have to deal with, one by themselves, right? And there'd be 4 or 5 they'd have to deal with, to just the numerous times characters would get hurt, whether it's the heroes, whether it's the villains, right? And it just had a lot of variety to really say, like, damn, My Hero isn't playing around. They immediately kick into the thick of it last week, and they're not pulling their punches. They're not slowing down anytime soon. And to see the numerous locations and how each are just as important as the other, you might be able to make arguments at certain points that, okay, you know, if obviously old doctor over here releases Shigaraki, shit's gonna get way worse for everyone, so maybe that's the most crucial one. But you can see how each part of this mission are just as important. Like, literally, people are coming to the conclusion that Hawks literally sold them out. Unfortunately for them, they realize that as their building gets torn apart. And I think that's what's really cool about seeing all these characters here, and I always love it when My Hero has more than a couple of familiar faces, but rather you see new, you see old, and just the way they can combine their abilities, like ripping a building that basically has all these evil characters in it, and just seeing them just collectively shit their pants as they have to charge after them. It was pretty cool. And even just like the ambulance situation where you'll see characters like floating bodies around because they need to move them to safer locations. I like the fact that you just get a sense that this isn't just a hero society where characters shoot fireballs or characters throw ice shards at other people, right? The way they implement it to general jobs like ambulances, healthcare, stuff like that, or how characters who normally wouldn't get the time to shine on a frontline battle now are maybe the most crucial people to start the battle as the more familiar heavy fighters come into the mix to kind of shake up the crew and things like that. But it was a really fun episode. A lot of action, a lot of adrenaline, and really giving characters who I've heard a lot of positive things. I mean, ever since I feel like season 3, maybe season 4 would be a better area. I remember hearing a lot about Mirko and just how she was a fan favorite at the time, and just obviously visually alone, she steals the show. I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory, but it's great to see how, what I like about him is that these high-ranking heroes that have the first 1 to 10 slots in their name, right? I feel like they deserve it, right? It doesn't feel like one of those things where you're like, okay, they're just slapping numbers and you could say like, man, anyone could, I guess, get to level 5, rank 5 or whatever, right? No, it's like, you can see how they got there because they're badasses, but they also can clearly think on their feet, and even if their arm gets twisted like they're in ReZero, they still manage to get up and say like, bitch, please, one arm is just more of a challenge and I'll rise to that challenge sort of a thing, and it's pretty exciting, right? I think given just how much action is clearly going to be here for this season of My Hero, I'm glad that not only was this not in last season, because it feels like based on how the production of My Hero typically works, you can see when production starts to stretch and you can see where they start to struggle more often than not. So I think by leaving it for this season, even if you disagree maybe with the narrative reasons for how they rearranged arcs and stuff, I think given that this is clearly the primary focus of this season, I think it just works out better for a healthier production. And while yes, the first couple of episodes of any anime season will always look relatively good if not great, I do think if you compare some of the content from even earlier parts of the prior My Hero season, which never really bothered me, but it does feel like there is a bit more polish to the season so far. I'm not talking just about narrative, but I'm just talking about the overall visual quality. Like sometimes Deku's face may be a little more off model than in other shots, but I mean, if you look at the vast majority of this episode, it's pretty damn refined if you ask me. And it's great to see people excited for My Hero again, because it definitely was a rocky past couple of seasons if you ask me, for people really loving it, really hating it, or finding it mediocre. And I feel like right now there's a lot of buzz, there's a lot of excitement. I'm not exactly sure how people are feeling about the manga as it stands. It feels like it's usually a roller coaster. Sometimes people really love where the manga's at and then they absolutely hate it, but it's right now anyway, it feels like a good time to be a My Hero fan, and season 6 seems like it's going on a very positive upward trend, which is what you want to see for a long-running show like this, right? But thoughts and feelings and theories, if you got any, on where this crazy ride might go next, a hero you want to really see fight in this big epic battle, do let me know down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. Until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.